Thank God it's Friday here on UCY.TV. You're listening to Boiler Room Radio, and I am the host of that show, Jim Funke. My co-host is over there in the other chair on the other side of the country. His name's Lance Musser. This is Boiler Room Radio. You're listening to live radio here on UCY.TV. You'll be with us for the next 60 minutes unless you decide to change the dial, and if you do, be warned, we will take that hand. How's it going, Lance?
Hey, good evening, Jimmy.
So how was the links today? Got out there and straightened out a couple of golf clubs, yeah?
You know what? I'll tell you what. That's twice this week that I played top-notch championship courses in the course of business, free alcohol, free golf, good friendship. I don't know how much more of this I can take.
Yeah. It's like vacation, right? And getting paid for it.
Well, I'm on commission. I'm not on a salary anyway. So no, most of us don't get paid out there, but it's a good place to meet
free beers like getting
clients
paid. Come on.
And everything else. Yeah.
Free beers like getting paid.
It was a good time. No doubt about it.
Did they pay your link fee?
Oh, of course.
Well, my
company always picks us up. Yeah. And then we get to take a bunch of realtors out that we do business with. So it's free golf, free beer, free goodies.
Yeah, rubbing elbows.
Yeah.
Networking, as they say.
Networking. Yeah, that's a good term for it. It's just networking. It was a great time.
There you go. What'd you shoot?
Not as good as we did on Wednesday. We shot 8 or 9 under on a much tougher course.
Ooh. But
today we started drinking a lot earlier. Ooh. So 3 under maybe.
Affects the handicap, huh?
It is a handicap. That is the handicap.
Ding, ding, ding. Speaking of handicaps, let's talk about Wall Street because they are handicapping the country.
Oh,
we'll just jump right into Smoke'em's Market Minute.
We are only 17 points away from 16,600 on the Dow Jones. 1,800 on the S&P, and then, right at 4,000 on the NASDAQ. So, we gonna play the Manarino today that you dropped me? It was a beautiful one because it talked about. Oh, was it yesterday?
Yeah,
it was actually
out
a beautiful one.
Yeah, we'll go ahead and play that one because he didn't drop one today. He must have been out cashing checks or something.
Must have been because it was a beautiful one, and he basically came out and said, "Man, that market isn't going to crash until they can get any more until they can't get any more money out of you. It's safe."
Put out a 43-second little clip today of Gordon Gekko saying, "Greed is good."
Yeah.
So I guess he's out cashing checks.
Mm-hmm. Maybe, I guess.
Buying a new Beamer.
Out. However, I guess he's got a 3 Series. I think he's got the cheap one. So I mean, he's not all
a 5 Series.
Oh, was it a 5 Series? I couldn't remember. Yeah, he did go buy a new 5 Series.
No. He's got a 3. He'll go buy a 5 now.
Oh, yeah. Okay, I thought he had a 3. That's right. All right. Stock market, though, crash indicators. 3 more warning signs.
3 more?
Stock market crash indicators are suggesting that the current bull market may be running out of steam and is susceptible to a significant correction. This is actually from Money Morning, your daily map to financial freedom, to give kudos where they belong. 2 of the stock market crash indicators are weakness in key sectors, and the other is a technical development on the S&P 500 index chart.
Uh-oh.
And then they say, let's start with a chart. The S&P is bobbing in the 1880 range, which is not far below the all-time high of 1890 reached on April 2nd. It's steady
2008. Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, right. Its steady climb over the past couple of years has put the index more than 20% above its 150-day moving average. And if you remember, we've been talking about 20% a correction for months, 6 months now. The last time the S&P got that far above the 150-day moving average was in 2011 when it got slammed with a 21.5% correction. Richard Ross, global technical strategist, as George Bush would say, at Albert Grayson told CNBC that investors should take the parallel very seriously. I think we're in exactly the same scenario he said, noting that the similar decline now would shave about 20% off the S&P 500, taking it down to the 1500 level. I think that's what we're staring at right here. Now, if you remember, what was it, 3-4 months ago when we were talking about Soros, and we never could prove that it was Soros, but there was somebody
that was doing the puts on the gold
on the S&P. He put it put on the S&P
to finish at zero
within the next 120 days to just crash. And
to finish at zero specifically.
Well, yeah, specifically, yes. And here this guy is talking about a 21, and he was on CNBC.
But a 20% correction on the S&P is not going to be zero.
No, it wouldn't be zero. It would take it down to about 1,100.
So he's going to lose.
Yep.
Unless he knows something we don't.
Unless he knows something with it that we don't. And this guy is just telling CNBC 20% just so he can look good.
Right.
He said, I think we're in exactly the same scenario. He said, noting that a similar decline now would shave 20% off the S&P.
It's funny that I think it was a couple of months ago, I asked you specifically when Greg said that there would be a major correction. I asked you what a major correction would entail. And you said specifically 20%.
Without even hesitating, I said 20%.
Yep.
Ross also pointed out that the S&P 500 has sputtered for most of this year. We've stalled out at the high end of the trading range. It's really been a holding pattern for the last 2 months. Now look, when a market stalls and moves sideways, that's not necessarily a bad thing. But when that occurs at the tail end of a 5-year bull run, with the market up almost 300% over that time, that's where it's a problem.
Yep.
He said, meanwhile, Gina Sanchez, founder of Centico Global, said she sees weaknesses in the housing sector as a stock market crash indicator. We've already talked about pending home sales down or 7.5% this year, according to the National Association.
Weakness in the housing market?
That's what they're saying.
The housing market's in a wheelchair, brother.
Well, it depends who you listen to. If you listen to people in the industry that their sole job is to keep things positive for the people selling that real estate, I think, they're doing a good job of portraying it being a whole lot better than it is. But it is down 7.5%.
Go ahead. Sorry.
And they're projecting that sales of existing homes to fall another 4%. And new home sales for March plunged 13.5% from the same year, but we know that was all because of the weather. If you look at the pillars of the economy that should be holding us up, one of the biggest that's been doing poorly is housing. If we see further falls in the housing, that could be very negative. So I do think there is some reason for there to be caution right now. Finally, she said, she sees the stock market crash indicator in a faltering sector that until recently was one of the main engines pushing stocks higher. So that's interesting.
That's scary. Because everything we're seeing is saying the same thing. And here's another thing. Youth unemployment. Not just the unemployment rate.
You're talking about people under 30.
25 and under. 25 and under. What's the youth unemployment in this country? I'm guessing
40%, maybe
40 or more.
Yeah, 40 or more would be my guess.
So that's another driver.
That these kids can't graduate and they're coming into the job market
that doesn't want them.
that doesn't look favorable for them. And
unless they want to go to work at Papa John's.
Well, you don't need a degree for that, but they're burdened with anywhere from $30,000 to $120,000 for a 4-year degree, depending on the school. So, you're already starting out in the hole. And if the government can loan money to banks at 0%, why in the hell can't these college kids get the same damn interest rates? That pisses me off. I'm very upset.
They're not part of the club.
But that's our future.
Well, you asked, I answered.
Yeah, that's true. But that's our future. those people should be getting those 0% interest
God
rates
help
student
us.
loans. Isn't that scary thought? Isn't that crazy? Why the U.S. is not experiencing raging inflation. In a recent article in the New York Times op-ed section, economist Paul Krugman points out that in the time it was most needed, economics failed. And let's first start with defining economics. According to Webster,
It was manipulated.
According to Webster, economics is a science concerned with the process or system by which goods and services are produced, sold, and bought. Economics are expressions of what people do. Participants in the economy act on their own selfish behalf in a manner that meets the satisfaction of others acting on their own behalf. The collective action of all these participants is what's called the market or the economy. And Krugman says the science of producing, selling, purchasing goods and services failed us or the collective of the market. According to Krugman, few economists saw the crisis coming. Mainly, I'd argue, because few realized how fragile our deregulated financial system had become and how vulnerable debt-burdened families were to a plunge in housing prices. And we go back to deregulation, take it all the way back to Clinton. A lot of people want to blame it on Bush, but take it all the way back to Clinton.
That's right.
It really stretches the imagination that economists were unable to discern that any debt-burdened entity would somehow be immune to a drop in the price of the very thing that caused their debt. This sounds more like a failure of economists and not economics. Continuing with the op-ed piece, Krugman postulates, there's your word, I love that word, that our problems are a result of one simple reason. We are suffering from inadequate demand. And would that be because nobody has jobs, money, et cetera, et cetera?
Ding, 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 ding.
If I understand him correctly, the demand stimulated by debt-burdened families was somehow inadequate during the boom years of pre-2008. And now that the market wants a reprieve from debt accumulation, he suggests that we have an inadequate demand for it. He accurately states that the financial crisis caused people to want to spend less, which led to a decline in incomes and a depressed economy. And certainly that's the market's natural reaction to excessive debt accumulation. He goes on to directly blame the bankers. And I'm not going to go into the whole rest of the article because it's only an hour show tonight. But he goes in and firmly blames the bankers, businesses, and then public officials. The $700 billion stimulus, nothing. I mean,
we got zero out of it. We got nothing out of it.
Who define we?
Well, anybody, the country, well, you know what I'm saying?
Define we.
Joey Bag of Donuts.
Thank you
and
very
family.
much. Yes, thank you very much. Because out of that $700 billion stimulus, I'm sure there's a lot of people that are living and driving nice cars and living in nice houses because of that.
Hang them.
Note to Iceland.
Thinking about that? Oh, sorry.
Note to Iceland. Please tell us how you jailed your bankers.
Yeah. Well, you gotta really look into that story though. A lot of them, I mean, they jailed a few, but most of them skipped the country. And they didn't go after them. You know, there's warrants out for their arrest still, but they're only in Iceland. They don't go through Interpol or.
Well, hell, there's warrants out for George Bush's arrest too in certain.
That's why he can't leave Texas.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's true.
So, anyway, what else you got?
Not a whole lot. I mean, it's only an hour show, so my 15 minutes of fame is right there, and then I know we have some vids.
Well, I'm going to play, like I said, we'll do the Manarinos from yesterday, I reckon.
It's very short, too, but succinct and to the point. It basically lays it out. Hey, if you're wanting to make any money in the market, go ahead and do it right now because it's being artificially pumped up.
Right. And now is the time to cash out.
Now is the time to do it if you're going to do it.
So, all right, we'll give Scott his 2 minutes and 24 seconds, and then we'll play that one from yesterday.
Scott Nissel Hype Report. Today's report is sponsored by the free book Ramblings of a Madman. Here are the quotes for various items. First, rogue EPA. Apparently the EPA has not been firing employees for watching pornography at work and falsifying federal documents. An EPA employee was actually selling jewelry and weight loss pills out of her office. In addition, a unit within the EPA run by Obama's political staff has been operating illegally as a rogue law enforcement agency. Next, lawsuit. After ignoring repeated Freedom of Information Act requests to provide documentation on unconstitutional Border Patrol checkpoints, the Department of Homeland Security is being sued in federal court. Apparently laws mean nothing to these fascist bastards. Next, public support for Obama? Obama told his Bel Air supporters that public opinion is on his side. Here are some stellar examples. 1. 22% of Americans rate Obama-Rec as a success. 2. 41% of Americans rate Obama highly. 3. 34% of Americans are highly concerned about climate change. 4. 33% of Americans believe companies working secretly with the NSA to monitor citizens is just fine. With this kind of plurality, is it any wonder that 15% of Americans say Obama never lies? Yikes! Next, Hillary's problem. According to Hillary Clinton, she is absolutely satisfied with what she knows about the Benghazi terror attack where she likely allowed Americans to be brutally murdered. Fortunately for many, others disagree with her as the House is setting up a committee to investigate her role. It is likely she stood there and lied directly to the families of victims as their coffins were there lined up. It's 3 a.m., Hillary. What are you doing? Next, payback. Because the state of Indiana has dropped the fascist takeover of education known as Common Core, the Department of Education has notified Indiana educators that they lost their waivers from the No Child Left Behind Act. In the end, Common Core skeptics appear to have been vindicated. What was initially sold as a state-initiated program has devolved into yet another show of federal control.
Yep.
Next, mileage tax. A new bill in California would tax drivers 5 cents for every mile they are on the road. For now, California taxes 52.9 cents per gallon. If the average car gets over 20 miles per gallon, that would add up to over $1 in taxes for every gallon of gas. This bill appears more like a method to restrict travel than a method to help Californians. Finally, please prepare now for the escalating economic and social unrest. Good day.
Don't we already pay a road tax in our fuel when we buy it?
No.
Yes, we do. It's part of the federal tax. It's part of the federal tax on every gallon of gas that you pay. Part of that goes to the roads. You already pay a road tax when you purchase every gallon of gas that you burn in your vehicle. Period.
I have a follow-up. Actually, a follow-up in a recent survey made up by me for this story. 40% of Americans are delusional.
That's a no-shitter. And
that would be the
40%
that would be agreeing with Obama and the NSA and everything else.
Yeah, so the 15% that think that Bronco never lies, you people should be shot.
Well,
people
even 15% of the population isn't in Congress, so what the hell?
That's just laughable.
Those people would vote for the elephant, though. So, I mean, if the elephant ran or the donkey ran, those people are so party affiliated, they would vote for the animal itself. That's how delusional they are.
Okay.
And speaking of delusional, since before we go into Manarino, right. I played at that golf course today that abuts that private airport, the Newport News Williamsburg Airport.
Right.
The one where that hangar is built right on the other side of the runway, and you can actually see it from one of the holes.
Oh, nice.
Where we were.
Did you bother to break out your camera?
Nah, I pointed it over to it, and I said, you know what? The two guys that I was playing with, one of them was my boss, and then one of them was a good friend of mine. And I said, you know that building over there? They said, yeah, I see it. I said, do you know that there's about a dozen UN planes parked inside and outside of that building? And he said, I wonder if it has anything to do with him giving over our rights to our arms and our internet. And I said, damn, you're a little bit more awake than I thought you were.
Yeah, you've been paying attention.
I said, congratulations, man. You know what's going on a little bit.
Nice.
So I thought that was interesting because I've never spoken one word to either one of them about my, theories and my thought process.
Are they on your Facebook friends list?
Nope. Mm-mm. Nope.
Two less sheeple to the slaughter.
Yeah.
Nice.
But they're not doing anything about it. I mean, they don't get on the air and talk about it and try to wake up people or anything, but at least they're aware of it.
Well, they're friends with somebody that does, so that makes a difference.
Exactly.
Okay, here's Greg. That's going to be an ad. Oh, there we go.
Hi, everybody. It's me, Greg Menarito. How are you today? It is Thursday, May 8th, 2014.
Yes, we ran the clock back.
All right, people.
Yesterday.
So what is going on here? A couple of really big things. Well, let me start with this. As I am doing this video blog, the U.S. equity markets are still open. The Dow Jones Industrial Average is up about 90 points. And I want to go over why that is happening at this time. A lot of perspective here, people. So we got this. We heard from the European Central Bank today, and they're hinting that more stimulus is on the way coming June. Again, all of the world's central banks are doing this, people. They've been doing this for years now. They are in print mode. They're going to flood the world with debt in the form of their currency. And just to put a perspective on this right here at the beginning of this video, our accumulation of precious metals should be directly proportional to how much liquidity they're going to flood the world with. I'm referring to debt.
That's a good point.
So what we can expect here as we move forward is, unfortunately, massive distortions in all of the global markets, which are already off of the charts. But again, what does this do? This is an incredible opportunity here. So we got the European Central Bank here again hinting at more stimulus. Yesterday and today, we hear from Janet Yellen. Today, she's just reiterating everything, that she will be supporting equity prices and boost the stock market, suppress interest rates, continue to rob savers more and more. And the general populace is going to sit back and just...
Did she use those words, though?
Frankly, people, they're too dumb to know any better. And that's fine. I went over this in yesterday's video. We need to take advantage of this and them. Period. That's it. Yeah, I am certain if you follow this...
And she ended with, and at this point, what difference does it make?
There's nothing wrong with capitalizing on people's stupidity. I frankly love it. It's the truth. Brings a smile to my face. We need to find these opportunities, and they're everywhere. So we know this is going to happen, people. There is no risk, almost zero, of being in this equity market at this time until this whole thing melts down. Again, this is building up, in my opinion, to the largest financial disaster and crash in the history of mankind and the world that we'll ever see. Beyond any shadow of any doubt.
Oh my goodness.
Again, you cannot solve these problems by printing cash out of thin air, buying assets with it, and distorting these markets. Can't happen. So we know all they're doing is creating a greater and greater problem down the road. And we need to be capitalizing on that right freaking now. And I'm going to say this again, something I go over all the time. We need to be adding to those positions, people, of physical metals. I can't stress this enough, and I've been going over this for years now. You should be dollar cost averaging into these metals, lowering your cost basis until the foreseeable future. Because again, we need to be adding to those positions in direct proportion to how much debt they're going to flood the world with. It's that simple. You need to be taking the opposite side of that trade here. That's really what we're doing. We're taking the short end of the trade against the debt.
Whoa. What happened? Why did it stop?
Oh, well.
Ding, blame it.
I wonder...
It's been tossed, man, for the last couple of days. Actually.
You know, Monica Lewinsky has come out with her.
It's that simple.
Oh,
you need to be taking the opposite side of that trade here.
Yeah, okay.
That's really what we're doing. We're taking
okay.
the short end of the trade.
We'll let you finish that in just a second.
Against
Oh, yeah.
debt. It's a nice way to think about it. But again, this is not going to play out tomorrow or next week, and we should be more than thankful for that. These prices, I hope, stay low or go
what he
lower.
thought a month ago.
Nope.
For years. That's my sincere hope.
It's hard to predict manipulation.
There's no way out of the financial
limited
apocalypse that is being set up right now.
They can do it for almost an unlimited amount of time. They've done it for 4 years, 5 years now.
Well, that's what I'm saying, but it's hard to predict it.
Yep.
Exuberance in the U.S. equity markets. People, we have never seen what we're seeing now in the history of the world financial markets. World central banks that will do anything and everything, and things that we haven't even thought about yet, to support equity prices, especially here in the United States right now with this election year. They need to keep the illusion real. With that in mind, honestly, there's no greater opportunity, in my opinion, than all of the stuff that I cover on a daily basis. And I can't tell you the hope I have that all of you are taking advantage of this. We're never going to see this again in our entire lifetimes. So,
never.
Please, do whatever you can to take advantage of the situation. And again, if that means you don't have cash to trade this equity market, that's fine. You need to be betting against that debt, people, and you do this very simply by hoarding as much precious metals as humanly possible. And silver, again,
that's what the other governments are doing.
I think, and I'm going to say it again, it's the most undervalued asset in the history of the world at this point. You're not going to find a better place to park your cash.
He's been listening to us.
And just wait for that moment when this whole thing.
He's going to keep rambling on and on and on about that. There's only about 30 seconds left anyway, but I'm going to say seeds. Again, I'm going to say ground. I'm going to say
heirloom seeds, you mean?
Yes. I'm going to say buy heirloom seeds.
And land.
Buy some chickens. Buy some ducks.
As long as you own land already.
Yeah. Get some land. Build a pond on it. Store water. If you've got a piece of property, drive a well on it for the hell of it. It's going to cost you a little bit of money, but hey, it's worth it.
It's good water too.
Yeah. Just, if you got all that stuff already, then go ahead and buy your silver.
Right.
But take care of yourself first. Take care of yourself first. Unless you know somebody that's willing to buy the silver off of you, then go ahead and hoard up on it and wait. But
wait for it to go up.
Right.
Triple.
Yep. Anywho, that's that. And we're 30 minutes into the show. How about that?
Hot diggity.
Okay, so on with Monica Lewinsky.
Oh, yeah. She's come out with her thing this week. She's finally destroying the evidence and doing everything like that. Mm-hmm. Do you think Bill turned to her and Hillary when it all came out and said, Hillary, at this point, what difference does it make?
Yeah, I got to tell you, man, I saw a clip on YouTube on Pigmine of Clinton and Jimmy Kimmel when he was talking about the UFOs and stuff.
You mean the one over Ukraine?
No. Area 51.
Oh, okay.
When he was president, Kimmel asked him, when you were president, what did you, Area 51, blah, blah, blah. And he was talking to him about it. This, I think it was last fall or something when this interview actually
Who was he talking to again?
Bill Clinton.
Oh, okay.
Jimmy Kimmel.
Mm-hmm.
And Clinton's sitting there and he looks pretty gaunt. He's pretty thin. His hands look really, really frail. Mm-hmm. He's not in good shape anymore, I don't think.
He looks a lot older than he used to, that's for sure.
Very much.
Of course, the presidency ages, look at every president from the first, beginning of the term when they go in to when they come out. Every one of them's gray if they weren't going in.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of stress, having to take all those orders from the elite.
So, I'm going to go into this. I don't really talk a whole lot about Bunkerville, but this just hit the wire today, and we all knew this was coming anyway, but just for verification of everybody. And Vinny, if you're listening, Heads up, brother. While Cliven Bundy supporters praised the armed individuals who came to the defense of the Nevada rancher and his land dispute with the federal government, the FBI is now investigating them for possible criminal offenses. The armed standoff between the Bureau of Land Management and Bundy, who has refused to pay the $1 million animal grazing fee the government claims he owes since 1990s, has now been over for weeks. But recently, it's been those supporters and armed state militia members who've come under the spotlight. According to local Las Vegas news outlet KLAS, multiple sources have confirmed the FBI has opened a criminal investigation into the event. When Bundy declined to pay up, he claims he does not owe the government anything since his ancestors had used the land for more than a century, blah, blah, blah. We know that. Federal agents began to seize his cattle. As sympathetic supporters descended upon the ranch, most who believed the government was overreaching, the BLM backed off and released the cattle back to Bundy's custody. Now, however, there are allegations that Bundy supporters went too far, with many reportedly pointing their weapons at Metro officers who got between them and BLM agents. It's illegal to point a loaded weapon at a federal official. Some Metro officers have told the FBI that Bundy supporters launched death threats against them. Wah.
Well, Reed's got them too, so.
I know. The federal authorities are conducting an investigation, and I'm pretty confident it's going to go into the future, Metro Assistant Sheriff Joe Lombardo said to KLAS. Would there be consequences for somebody there on videotape, on a news camera, pointing a gun at a Metro officer, pointing a gun at a federal ranger? Yes, there is definitely going to be consequences. Definitely.
Just like Reed said, this ain't over.
That is unacceptable behavior. If we let it go, it would continue into the future. Mm-hmm. Lombardo, along with Sheriff Doug Gillespie, lying shithead, and numerous other Metro officers have already been interviewed by the FBI. Metro Police Sergeant Tom Jenkins claimed that some Bundy supporters even set up armed positions near women and children. It's not a rumor. You saw kids, women on horses in the backdrop, and then guys with guns laying on the ground, even a back of pickup trucks, said the officer. We're going, wow, this would never happen in Las Vegas. Jesus Christ. But it was there, and it's not a rumor. This is reality, and I saw it with my own eyes, Tom Jenkins said. According to KLAS, Bundy supporters have denied the accusations, through email and phone calls. No individuals were cited, but they said only people pointing guns at others were BLM agents. The only ones pointing guns at others were BLM agents.
Or civilian contractors posing as BLM agents, but go ahead, sorry.
Yeah, okay. According to KLAS, let's see. Okay, that's right. This development is just the latest regarding Bundy supporters who have come under the spotlight recently, as RT reported earlier this week. U.S. Representative Steve Horsford, Democrat, the Republican, it doesn't matter.
A Republican Democrat, really?
Yeah, it doesn't matter. Has called the state's governor to intervene and remove what he called armed separatists. Just a few days before that, supporters also lashed out at Senate Majority Leader Harry Reid for calling Bundy a hateful racist who mooches off public land. They criticized Reid for provoking what they termed a civil war. Mm-hmm. So, there's that.
I said it from day 2 that this was a false flag to draw out the militia so they could find out
who
they were working against, who was going to be against them, and who was going to
drive across the country for this.
Because every one of you, us, the listeners, and everybody else, has walked into a DMV and stood there and had our picture taken without a smile on our face. The drones that they flew over that crowd now know who every single one, every swinging person out there, who they were because of their driver's license photo and facial recognition. Mm-hmm. Dumb. I said it from day 2 that's what this was all about.
Mm-hmm. And it's not going to stop there.
This isn't over, as Reed says.
Mm-hmm. Let's see.
Yeah, Dan said the fact still remains that Bundy broke the law. Yeah, unconstitutional law. I mean, a law, define a law. I mean, they made up that law. And he'd been there long before the laws were ever in place. So,
and I think there actually was a grandfather clause to that law.
Exactly. So
you know,
it was all.
But I fully agree with
he
Bundy.
Stood up.
I fully agree with Bundy. If I owe the money to anybody, I owe it to the state. The feds don't own that land.
And that's why all this started, is because he took a stand for every other rancher that's paid this fee and said, enough is enough. I'm not going to pay it. Let's draw the line in the sand right here.
Yeah, Dan, and I also want to remind you of the fact that Harry Reid and Reid Bunkerville LLC, which is a real viable company that's been in business for 5 years, has already run 57 other farmers like Clive and Bundy out of business. So, since we're throwing facts out there. Anyhow. Let's see. Let's talk about the Ukraine for a while, since there's stuff going on there. I know you got a story that you want to get out that you were going to do Wednesday, and we ran out of time.
Yeah, let me pull that out. And,
you know, just this whole Kyiv sending out the army to all these cities and shooting their civilian population that pays their salaries is just ridiculous, man. I don't care what anybody says about Russian provocateurs being over there. That's a bunch of bullshit, and it's been proven. Everything that comes out of Washington, D.C. is a lie, and that's been proven. What's happening in Ukraine is despicable. And if you want to know what's getting ready to happen in this country when the shit hits the fan and the government tries to clamp down on the citizenry, watch your TV and watch what's coming out of Ukraine. Because that's what's coming here. Tanks on the streets, soldiers firing at civilians. Watch. Go ahead, Lance.
Keep in mind, this article actually came out Wednesday, and I meant to do it Wednesday, but the show ran a little longer than, we ran out of 2 hours really quick. If you've been watching the developments between Russia and Ukraine in recent days, and let's picture it as this week, then I'm sure you've seen reports of the sobering military buildups taking place on both sides of the border. Today, I want to spend a little time updating you on these escalations. But then I plan to tell you about the real skirmish here, one that is not being reported on by the mainstream media. In fact, it may have already ended the battle in Moscow's favor. Kyiv just doesn't realize it yet. The deciding factor in the skirmish is something we've been telling you about for more than 2 years, and it just keeps gaining in importance. So much so, in fact, that we mainstream Americans need to watch it carefully just to protect ourselves. This X factor goes by a lot of names, but today we're going to refer to it as the invisible front of modern warfare. And to set the scene, let's take a look at what the mainstream media is looking at. The military buildups on each side of the Russia-Ukraine border. Over the weekend, this is last weekend, the state-run RIA Novosti news agency claimed the latest satellite photos clearly show the accumulation of a large number of Ukrainian military equipment and weapons on the border with the Russian Federation in the vicinity of Slaviansk. According to RIA, a Russian Defense Ministry source says the buildup includes more than 15,000 troops from the Ukraine Army and National Guard, about 160 tanks, 230 infantry fighting vehicles, and armored personnel carriers, and as many as 150, and as many as 150 mortars, howitzers, and multiple launch rocket systems, including the BM-30s and BM-21's Grad truck-mounted launchers. This buildup is enough to wipe out the city and all of its inhabitants from the face of the earth, the alleged Russian Defense Ministry source told RIA. This concentration of troops is one area in one area is not compatible with the potential of self-defense forces armed with only a small number of pistols and submachine guns. NATO has a very different view of what's going on. While Russia is lambasting the Ukraine military buildup, NATO commanders contend that the satellite images taken of areas on the Russian Federation side of the Ukraine border depict Russian military forces in more than 100 makeshift bases. And according to the latest report by the Wall Street Journal, NATO has described these troops as being in a state of high readiness and alleged the forces could make a major move in as little as 12 hours after receiving a high-level go order. They also reported that a senior NATO military official described the Russian military movements as destabilizing to the region, while NATO's Secretary General, late last week, called on Russia to remove its troops stationed there. Moscow claims the images are old and out of date, but the Obama administration believes in them enough to say that U.S. officials are looking for ways to counter those Russian troop movements. So if you, on mainstream media, if they ever put up satellite photos, don't be convinced 100% that they're accurate.
Most of them were taken last year that NATO proved.
Exactly. And the trees and stuff are different because of the seasons. And
right. Some of the buildings are gone now.
Right. It's funny. And following a pretty thorough review of available satellite imagery, the Washington Post essentially concluded that the Russian military was gearing up for action. The newspaper studied Russian military movements in 6 key areas near the Ukraine border and concluded that NATO's argument that these satellite images represents a military buildup does carry weight, especially near Kuzminka, where an isolated area used for military exercises in the past is now seeing a lot of activity. Given its strategic location not far from Donetsk, how do you say that? Donetsk, that certainly seems like something to watch. Kumazina, you see, is somewhat remote from normal Russian military centers. It's only 80 miles from that city. An industrial center that's the 5th largest city in Ukraine. There are few natural boundaries that would slow a Russian onslaught if Federation forces decided to move into Ukraine from that direction. And remember, too, back on April 7th, pro-Russian protesters took over some administrative buildings in several eastern centers, including Donetsk. And thank you. And declared that the city of Donetsk is now the People's Republic of
Donetsk.
Ukraine.
It's actually a whole region of the country.
Right. Ukraine's central government in Kyiv has condemned the move, but having a sympathetic populace on the ground could serve as a kind of 5th column that would make the city an easy conquest for Russian invaders. Ukrainian Prime Minister wants to get the country to the May 25th presidential elections, and he's cozying up to Western Europe and has talked about ceding more power to the country's regions in an effort to diffuse some of the unrest. He's also staying on the offensive in the international arena, saying that Russia is looking to start World War III by occupying Ukraine, military and politically, and creating a conflict that would spread through the rest of Europe. Scary stuff to be sure, but this incursion may actually be over very quickly thanks to the invisible front. So we'll see what happens. That's the end of the story.
Putin's not doing anything. Putin pulled all of his troops back from the border. They're not running their drill anymore. He had Red Day today in Slavyansk, I think was the name of the town over in Crimea. So, he was out there just having a good old time, partying it up. They've been partying it up for 12 hours, actually. They just got done with the fireworks display about an hour before we went on the air. So, he's not really sweating anything. He's not, he doesn't seem like he's on the footing of war to me, so everything that's coming out of Washington, D.C. is laughable if you're paying attention. But if you're paying attention to MSNBC, you think we're about ready to head into World War III. I think we are about ready to head into World War III because I don't think NATO is going to stop poking Putin with a stick.
Nah. They need it to blame the.
They're going to do some kind of false flag. Yeah, they're going to do some kind of false flag attack, and they're going to blame it on him, or they're going to blame it on Syria or somebody, and they're just going to try to set it all off together.
It needs to be Syria, Russia, or Iran that attacks us either through cyber beams, an EMP, whatever the bombing is. They're not going to do it, but it's going to be blamed on the, kickoff of the financial collapse. That's what a lot of people think.
Let me ask you this.
And they may not be far off of it.
Mr. Wall Street Watcher.
Mm.
Could the financial collapse happen without a false flag?
Well, it could, but then people would look at the government as being at fault, where they can't have that happen because then they're going to have more people upset at the government.
So the printing of money would be, that's the only reason. That's what would trigger it, and everybody would know.
They would. And we've talked about it. Everybody's talked about it. Scott talks about it. Manarino talks about it. Well, actually Manarino doesn't. But, Hyper Report or the X22 report talks about it all the time. They need a false flag so when it does collapse, they don't take the blame. Right. Because whatever party is in office when it finally collapses is not going to get voted in the next time. And they can't have that. Well, that's why the Electoral College.
They're all in the same goddamn team anyway.
It's all rigged anyways.
Back to the Ukraine debacle, because we kind of slipped off the rabbit hole. This is the latest out of Kyiv, or out of eastern Ukraine. Kyiv's forces are using heavy weaponry and tanks as the eastern city of Mariupol to storm the local Interior Ministry building, where police have barricaded inside. Police have been barricaded inside. After residents began flocking to the scene, Kyiv fighters opened fire on civilians. And there is video footage of this, people. There are conflicting reports about the killed and injured. The Ukrainian Interior Ministry said that about 20 anti-Kyiv activists were killed and 4 or more were taken captive, according to a statement posted on Interior Minister Arsen Avakov's Facebook page. However, according to Donetsk authorities, 3 people have been killed and 25 injured. RIA Novosti cited the Donetsk Region's Council press service as saying, hospital and doctor has said number killed today could be over 100. That's the tweet from the Interior Ministry. Many people came to mark Victory Day, but as reports of shooting started coming in, they moved to show support for a few dozen policemen who had barricaded themselves inside the building, refusing to take orders from Kyiv. Federalization supporters screamed fascists as the Kyiv forces approached. One of the armed vehicles then opened fire at a group of unarmed civilians, according to a self-defense forces representative. According to 0629 UA News report, a tank was seized at the crossroads of Linia and Taragovska streets by representatives of the Donetsk People's Republic. There's video footage of that too. These people are standing in front of machines to stop them, and they will not move. At 12:50, 14 tanks were spotted coming from the agricultural base toward Mariupol. According to medics, there are 2 dead and 8 wounded. The outlet also reported that on the Lenin Avenue, 2 people were seriously wounded, one in the head and another in the stomach. A huge pool of blood is next to the Arabat Cafe. It's not known whether the wounded people have survived. Witnesses say they were driven away in passenger cars. The fighting is on the next main street, or is on to the next main police department. Gunfire is heard. 2 armed vehicles are blocking Aritam Street. The main Interior Ministry building is on fire. This is just, people, this is coming here. This is absolutely coming here. And if you don't believe it, keep sitting on your ass and doing nothing. Because these people have had it with their government, putting them in debt and taking their stuff away from them, which is exactly what is happening in this country. Our government is drowning us in debt, and they are taking away every means possible for us to make any money and save any money. RT Stringer in Mariupol has been injured while trying to film and is now in hospital. Doctors say that in spite of his bulletproof vest, he has sustained a serious injury in the abdomen. So these people are firing armor-piercing rounds, evidently. Probably the 5.45s that were destined for the U.S. Your employee was on Goryavetska Street. Mariupol resident told RT he was showing the armed and masked people in uniform that he was unarmed, and then he was a journalist, but then he decided to abruptly cross the street. A shot was heard, and he fell. He could not have provoked the attack. As I understood it, he showed that he was a journalist and wanted to come closer to get good pictures. After he fell, he crawled to the car and hid behind it. We stopped the passing car for its driver to take him to the emergency room. We asked for traffic police officers who were close by for their help. One of them helped to drag your journalist and put him into the car. Currently, RT Stringer is fighting for his life in hospital. Doctors say that he is in serious condition and cannot be transported. So they're even killing journalists just for trying to show them on TV. According to the city's health officials, there was a gun battle in the center and at least 4 people have been hospitalized with gunshot wounds. About 1,500 people left the parade and went to the local Interior Ministry, HQ. People in camouflage confronted them, shooting into the air and using lethal weapons, a witness told Interfax. The witnesses also stated that another group of city residents set cars on fire next to the city council building. Earlier, self-defense forces in Mariupol reported that armed people had tried to seize the local city department of the Interior Ministry. This report goes on and on and on, and this is just from today, everybody. This is just from today. Kyiv's National Guard used grenade launchers against police who earlier refused to shoot at unarmed civilians, as the coup-appointed authorities ordered them to do. A representative told local anti-fascist committee member Piotr Komiskarov. Earlier, the local police refused to shoot at civilians. Kyiv called them traitors. Today, all police officers that did not ask for dismissal were attempted to be executed. Heavy military equipment was pulled into the city. They used small arms and rocket grenades, tanks fired from cannons at the police headquarters building. The National Guard went to war with the local police. These are quotes, people. The attackers were volunteer mercenaries from central and western parts of the country. They waged war for money, so they are capable of doing anything. We saw these people. We talked to them. They shot at civilians. I saw people killed, Komisarov said, adding that among the killed were police officers. Right sector representatives were identified among the dead. The nationalists captured 3 police officers, he said. We saw them tied up and sitting in a courtyard of the police HQ, but later people freed them. I'm going to go ahead and drop this article in the chat so that everybody can look at these films. There's so many videos on here, there's probably 10 different videotapes on here of different things that are going on in Mariupol. That's why I'm telling you, even though Putin is calling for calm and calling for people to talk this out, NATO is telling Kyiv, if you want this money, you better fight for it. And they're doing it. They're killing their own civilians. Countrymen killing countrymen for money. Go ahead, Lance.
No, and I don't even remember who it was I was having a conversation with the other day.
We need to try to get Olga back on next week.
Yeah, right. But I was having a conversation with somebody last week and this week, and we were talking about the firepower. I was talking about what set off the American Revolution. The gun grab.
Yeah.
Where
3%.
Right. That over the taxes, and then they went to go, take the guns away from those 71 patriots.
Yep.
And that actually kicked off the
American Revolution.
The American Revolution. So they said to me, well, back then, both of us had muskets. We had the same exact firepower back then.
That's right.
He goes, now look at it though. They've got tanks, they've got helicopters, they've got machine guns. They've got enough to wipe us out. I said, yeah, but we outnumber them 1,000 to 1.
More than that.
And you've got to feel deep down in your heart that the goodness in people, those people are going to say, wait a minute, I can't fire on my own people and obey these unconstitutional orders.
Like the police did in Kiev?
Well,
like the police did in Mariupol, and they got killed?
It's coming, slowly but surely. There's going to be bloodshed.
You got to remember, man, there's a lot of autonomous.
Realize it.
There's a lot of autonomous stuff out there. Now, I don't know how much of it is completely autonomous, where all they got to do is start the thing up and let it fly.
But somebody has the ability to power that off. And is that the person that's going to have the conscience to know that what they're doing is wrong? We can
only pray.
We can only pray, because if it's a straight up them against us paradigm, we're toast. There's no way about it, because
I still believe
the firepower.
Well, yeah, but I still believe what you say, that we can win by attrition.
Thank you.
Because we outlast them.
Thank you. That's what I'm saying, and I'm trying to convince other people that, because their always answer is, well, look at their weaponry. Yes, but they're still human beings that are running that weaponry, that have a conscience, and families and kids, and they're going to realize
that's right.
This is wrong, and let's stand up and get our country back. Not that we ever had it, but take over our country.
That's right.
I hope.
I agree.
Oh, that's a beautiful sound.
Mm-hmm. It's a great way to end the show, too, yeah. Listen to some nature. Still haven't got Carl to come out and
They say that people that listen to 2 hours of nature sounds a day are more at peace with themselves and the earth. So I fall asleep to it and put it on timer, because they didn't specify that you had to be awake while you're listening to those nature sounds.
Right.
So I fall asleep to them every night.
There you go, man. Peace. Live, love, and laugh.
Live, love, and laugh. I mean, to consider when you dying, cremating yourself, putting yourself in one of those plant urns, the tree urns.
Growing a tree. Yeah.
Growing yourself a tree, man. Don't take up space that nobody's going to visit after 20 years anyway.
They're probably going to wind up turning you under anyway and turning you into a golf course. So.
Yeah, I mean, somebody's going to dig you up later anyway, a flood or a catalyst,
Right.
Come on, man.
Cataclysm.
Plant yourself into a tree. Be something prettier than you ever were in real life.
Right. And again,
Peace
live, love, and laugh. Peace, Lance. Thanks, brother.
Peace, brother.
I will talk to you tomorrow, I'm sure. I'll talk to you later on tonight, too, probably. Hey, everybody. Hang on. Turboville's replays next, and then there's going to be Primer Time or Prepper Chicks, one of the two, and Anti-Medios after that, Anti-Media Radio. We'll see you tomorrow night for After the Last Cup. UCY